Hello and welcome to Underpaid Gamers Podcast. My name is Tony. That is Justin.
Hi.
We talk about video games and movies and not really comic books.
Sometimes.
Video games, mostly movies. Today we're talking about Rogue One, as you can tell by the awesome soundtrack in the background.
So let's do it.
We just watched Rogue One. We just got
did.
back.
So good.
Credits. So good? Do you think it was good?
Overall, good. Not as good as I wanted it to
Not great?
be.
Good, not great?
I would say good, not great.
Anyway, Underpaid Gamers is the official podcast of underpaidgamers.com. We have a channel on YouTube. You can find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, Twitter at UP Gamers Podcast, and you can email us at underpaidgamerspodcast@gmail.com.
You just crushed that.
Crushed it!
So
Anyway,
this is going to be our spoiler-full review of...
full of
Rogue One.
spoilers.
So if you don't want spoilers,
If you haven't seen Rogue One yet,
go watch it now.
well, you don't have to.
Or you can just listen to this and decide if you want to go pay money for it.
Quick review from me. You don't have to see this movie.
Yeah,
This is not a movie you have to see.
it's not.
Some movies you have to see. This is not one of them.
Nope.
There are some good parts.
There's some rough parts.
I don't think there was any bad parts. I think there were some boring parts.
Mm-hmm.
I think, so, as per usual, when we discuss movies, I have to talk about the movie setting. The cinema itself.
This was partly a negative. Part of this whole review is just the theater we went to really was not high.
It wasn't up
quality.
to par.
It
So,
was bad.
Because it's the holiday season, we are both busy people.
Yes.
So essentially what we're doing, we had to go see the movie as soon as we both got off work.
Yeah.
We had to record the podcast. I have to go pick up my sister, and then I have to drive to my hometown.
Yeah. So
I'm picking her up from the airport, so it's not like I can just come later whenever I want.
right.
So otherwise,
So
she'd be there.
we're very limited in when we could watch this.
Yeah. So instead of going to a theater that we are more familiar with, we had to go to a theater on the other side of town
They had the right time.
that had the appropriate time for us, and it was not
It was not good.
acceptable.
It was subpar.
So
In a
if
lot
the
of ways.
movie was more enthralling,
Mm-hmm.
I would have focused on the movie more and paid attention to the theater less. But some parts of this movie dragged a little, maybe dragged a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, what's going on over there in that corner of the theater?
Yeah.
What's going on behind me? One of those things. So part of it is the theater's part.
Yeah.
Part of it's the movie drags on a little bit some places.
You know, I think a good way to just kind of summarize for me the way the movie was is like climbing a hill, and the higher you get, the better it gets. Because at the beginning of the movie, kind of slow, kind of didn't know
New
what's
to
going
the
on.
Star Wars Star Wars saga is they put title cards on every planet. Whenever they go somewhere, it said, it's this planet, and it's occupied by these people. Never seen that in a Star Wars movie before.
I thought Attack of the Clones had that.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it said like Kamino and Mustafar. And I thought so. Maybe not.
I don't know.
I'd have to double check that.
Do we really want to talk about the title
No,
cards?
I don't even care. Let's move forward.
So the very beginning of this movie was very jarring, I would say. There's like 3 or 4 different things that are happening all at once, and it keeps going. Instead of fulfilling... So there's like 4 characters at the beginning, and it eventually expands to more characters. But instead of like finalizing the entry story to that one character in one whole setting, they would cut it in half.
It kept skipping.
It would skip
around.
from one person to one
and
person.
So scenes were like a minute or like 2 minutes. Like they weren't very long scenes, and so it was just like abrupt starting and pausing of these different stories as they started.
Yeah.
So I would say the worst part of the movie was the beginning.
Agreed.
But then again, with my analogy of climbing a hill, I think as you go further into it, it gets better. And then the end, I think, I liked the end of the movie a lot. But
Well, most movies and stories, the climax is towards the end. So you're saying it follows a standard movie procedure?
I mean, perhaps, but I don't think that other movies always have to be like hard to watch in the beginning. I feel like that some of the stuff in the beginning was just kind of difficult, and partly too, I think in the beginning they introduce a lot of characters, but they don't give you any reason to really like them or to interact, and that was frustrating for me too. Kind of moving through the movie, is they introduce these characters and then all of a sudden they love each other. They're like really close.
Their family.
Their family, like he calls her little. Well, at one point,
The guy with the gun.
the big gun guy can't remember his name.
Doesn't matter. Guy with a gun.
Calls her little sister or something.
But I think that's intent. I started that and I heard that and I'm like,
there's like literally no reason for him to do that because the entire the event that led up to that was her father.
He was very like standoffish the whole time anyway.
Dying, right?
Yeah.
And they weren't even together for that part.
Right.
They all split into separate groups to experience that in different places. So for me, I was like, this is literally the first time you guys have fought together. Why are you calling her little sister? You're like, why are you guys even close to each other? You shouldn't be at this point. There just wasn't a whole lot of character development together. And I didn't really get a good reason as to why I should care about a lot of the side characters. And I feel like they built what could be really cool characters, but we just really didn't get a whole lot there. And I don't know if that's just because I'm so used to Star Wars being like a saga.
Yeah. So like
this is just one movie.
This is just one off, so it doesn't have time to build up those characters, and It's not like, oh, I can't wait to see what happens to this character later on.
Right.
To go and like so I don't necessarily want to jump, but I guess we're not going to do this in order. So we're hopping straight to the end. The Darth Vader scene, by far the best scene
of the movie.
Probably one of the best lightsaber scenes in the movie. The best Darth Vader scene in any movie.
Well, that's the only lightsaber scene
in any movie.
Oh, okay, I thought you said in that.
The best lightsaber, or the best Darth Vader scene probably in any movie was probably right there. Because you could like, the tension was real, and you could feel
the anger,
the fear and the anger.
Right.
And you don't really get that in any other instance. But the issue was, he was mentioned throughout the whole movie. So I guess if you're listening and you haven't seen the movie, the last 2 minutes, Darth Vader hops onto the Corellian Corvette, and he's
not that
whatever. He hops onto a
flagship,
rebellion flagship, and he's at one end of a corridor, and there's like 8 rebellion people rebel soldiers with rifles and all their gear on the other end, and he literally walks through them and deflects every single bullet. And the coolest part was he force choked somebody to the ceiling and then walked past him and almost offhandedly cut him in half with his lightsaber while still fighting the other 7 guys.
As he was still on the ceiling.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
So that was so cool. But the scene itself was like 30 seconds long. And I wanted so much more of that throughout the whole movie. This is literally the only time period where they could have expanded on how cool Darth Vader was, and they didn't.
I mean, they could have done more.
Yeah,
sure.
Because like obviously 1, 2, 3 is the Anakin story, the Darth Vader story, and there's not really that many cool scenes in that that have to do with Anakin. There's a lot of cool scenes that have to do with Obi-Wan, some Yoda scenes, but Anakin and Darth Vader, not really anything. And then in episodes 4, 5, and 6, the movement isn't fluid in those movies as it is now, present day, 40 years later.
True.
And the scenes and the CGI is not nearly as fluid as it is now. And they could have taken what they have now and given him, like we've discussed so many more times, I wanted to see him like on a beach just destroying people. Yeah. So we did get to see him destroy people. We got to see him destroy the corridor.
For like a minute.
For like a minute, 30 seconds.
Maybe.
But there could have been the whole last battle scene, he could have been on the ground fighting people. Now, we made the joke, he doesn't like sand, so that's why he's not down there. But at the same time, like, there is no other time now that you can expand on Darth Vader's character. Because episodes 4, 5, and 6 have happened and he's gone. You've already done the prequels. The only ever other chance to show how cool and how powerful and how fearsome he is was this movie right here, and they missed it. I mean, they got it in that one little scene, but they could have expanded on it so much more.
But you think they could have done it better?
I think they could have, and I think they should have. If Darth Vader's supposed to be this menacing, terrifying Sith Lord, as they talk about, and it's one of those things where a lot of people talk about it, but don't really show it. So, yeah, he does the Force choke. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen that so many times now, it's not as menacing as before. This scene was a refreshing, menacing look at Darth Vader.
Right.
And the fact that it was only 30 seconds long is honestly a big letdown.
Sure, yeah.
But that being said, that big letdown is the highlight of the movie.
Right. Well, and I don't think, I mean, looking back, I can see where you're coming from, but when I was experiencing it, I was like in love with that scene. I was like, I love this scene.
Yeah, but you want more, don't you?
I could have had more of that. But the way they did it was really good.
Yeah.
Like, what the 30 seconds they gave us of that was grade A. It was really good. And I love the whole desperation of them literally carrying the Death Star plans with them.
Yeah.
And then running to the door, couldn't get through the door, and like the panic, and then the hearing of the breath of Darth Vader, and the lightsaber glowing. Like they did it. While they may have, it would have been nice for them to do it more. What they did, though, I think they did it very well.
So if with that, if there would have been if people qualify this as a war movie, that scene was really the only like fear part of the movie where you're afraid, because war is about fear, 100%. If the best war movies are about fear, they invoke fear. You see it from the soldier's perspective, and they should be afraid. It's normally, good war movies are people fighting each other to the death, and that's terrifying in general. Mm-hmm. So the best scene, again, is the Darth Vader scene, where the rebel soldiers were terrified out of their mind. They were clawing at the walls to get out, but instead they had to turn and fight.
Yeah.
That's like the most warlike aspect of the movie, was that one little scene. But then to add on to that, I know, like, I'm sure we'll talk about the fighting scenes on the blah, 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 blah. I still think that's the
only scene in the movie that's a war scene?
No, I think that's the best.
That's what it sounds like what you just said. Maybe it's the best. I mean, I don't even know if that it's the best, because I mean the whole last 30 minutes of the movie is a big, huge battle, and you get space battle, you get ground fighting. I mean,
I don't think the ground fighting, it was like,
that's what it would look like.
I don't know.
Because the majority of the rebellion and the majority of the Empire is not Darth Vader kicking rebels' butts.
I know, but if you look at the best war movies of all time, name two. Can you name two?
Saving Private Ryan.
Okay, that's one. That's on my Apocalypse Now. Pretty much all the Vietnam movies.
Yeah.
All the soldiers that we're following are always afraid for their life. Okay. There's not always like, so when martial arts guy got shot and killed, and then big gun guy went out to save him, like, that's not part of a war movie. That's part of like an invincible hero movie. Now I understand he died, but when blind martial arts guy walked out there, nobody hit him. Right,
because of the Force.
Because of the Force, whatever.
Dude, it's Star Wars,
but
man.
There's so yeah, they're having a battle, but I don't think that's war. I think the best war movies instill fear, and the best movies in general get you to experience. They try to make you experience something. Just hands down, that's what movies try to do. That's what art tries to do. That's what anything tries to do. And in this instance. It's what they're trying to give you to experience. So most of the Star Wars movies are about hope. They try to get you to have hope.
Sure.
So maybe hope wasn't part of this movie, but I also
had a lot of lip service to hope.
Yeah, there was. I think there was a lot of battle scenes and a lot of fight scenes, especially at the end. The last 30, 45 minutes was just a big battle scene. But I only think the real, actual, fearful battle scene was when Darth Vader was slicing through those people.
Sure. I mean, I feel like you're coming on a little bit too strong with that, so I'm going to disagree with you. However, because there are a couple other times where you see fear, like when the Imperial pilot has the cable and he has to run out there with both sides shooting, and he has to try and make it up there. At first, he's like, "I don't want to do this," and you can see it in his eyes, and he doesn't want to go. So I think also, there are other experiences of fear. I mean, that's fine, whatever. But I mean, like, to compare this to a war movie that's realistic, where you're tied to characters who may or may not have existed, like, this is not supposed to be a realistic war movie. This is supposed to be like a Star Wars war movie, which, to me, is still within the universe of Star Wars. We're not going to get, D-Day landing in this movie.
I feel like that's what they're trying to do.
See, but
it's on a beach level, a beach world, planet.
Yeah, but it's not D-Day, dude.
You don't think there's drawbacks to that?
I mean, a beach, like, there's not, like, when I think of D-Day, I think massive amounts, hundreds and hundreds of soldiers landing in a super defensive position. This is more like The Dirty Dozen. This is more like a heist movie, like a military heist movie, going behind enemy lines and stealing something. Have you seen The Dirty Dozen by chance?
I think I'll remind me.
It's like a World War II heist movie where they go behind enemy lines.
They just remade that, and that's when they try to get back all the Nazi art that they stole?
No, that's Monuments Men.
Oh.
No, they like crash on this like party of German generals, and they like try and steal a bunch of stuff, and that's like the point of the movie. It's like a military heist movie, and I feel like that's what this is. And I also think this is the movie where we've gotten the most extended battle between the rebellion and the Empire, like hands down. Like the Hoth battle probably comes in a second in terms of like length and breadth, but this one we got not only land battle, we also got space battle at the same time with the new technology. Now we can do CGI super awesomely, and I loved the whole last 30-minute battle.
Really?
That was yes. I thought it was a lot of fun.
I didn't dislike the last 30 minutes. Last 45 minutes, whatever it was. I would have much liked it more, honestly, if there wasn't like so many named characters that the story had to focus on. Like if it wasn't the pilot, if it wasn't the martial arts guy, if it wasn't the big gun guy, if it wasn't Jin, if it wasn't Captain Irish, if it wasn't all these other people. Like if it was just Jin and Captain Irish, doing their own thing.
It's not Irish.
It sounds like he had an Irish accent. Doing their own
That's
thing.
Not his name, but
then there was also battles going on and you see these things, I'm like, okay, but there's just so much stuff to focus on. However, I'm also not done talking about the Darth Vader scene.
Okay.
The Darth Vader scene left me wanting more Darth Vader, and it left a bad taste in my mouth because I know I'm not going to get that. Right? I know what happens in 4, 5, and 6. I know that there's no awesome I know that comparatively there's no awesome Darth Vader scenes. I know in the previous ones
but
there's
Empire
no
Strikes
awesome...
Back, man.
What's so awesome about that?
The whole fight scene between Luke and Darth Vader before he's ready.
Yeah,
how he gets his arm chopped off. And
it's a cool scene, but it's not nearly as...
I don't know. I love that entire lightsaber battle between the two of them. I love that.
But that doesn't show how strong Darth Vader is. And
he destroys Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, a guy that hasn't trained. A guy that's...
he trained.
Okay, for like a couple months. We've had a discussion. Luke Skywalker is not that strong. Darth Vader defeating him means nothing.
Okay.
Why is Luke so strong?
So you think Luke or Darth Vader fighting 6 to 8 rebel soldiers is less significant than him fighting Luke? Because I 100% disagree with... If you say yes, I 100% disagree. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Why? What's so... Like...
Luke can take out... Luke as a Jedi
Luke
Padawan.
in Episode 5.
In Episode 5.
What does he do?
He goes and he fights Darth Vader.
Okay, what else does he do?
He trains the rest of the movie.
Okay,
and he takes down an AT-AT by himself.
So... Kind of? Not...
How kind of? How kind of? He does it by himself.
Okay, but he doesn't do it with his bare hands. He ties it together and its legs fall down. Like,
sure. Well, no, I'm talking about the one he shoots up and throws a grenade in and uses his lightsaber to cut it open.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, he takes down 2.
Okay. But even so, like, there's no measure of how strong he is because it's him fighting something metallic that can't really fight back. If you get under an AT-AT, there's no defenses, correct? Other than maybe getting stepped on.
There's other guys.
There's other stuff going on around, sure, but
yeah, sure.
If it's a 1v1, if we're doing the fight night and it's a 1v1.
By the way, any Jedi. Let me look at the freaking Jedi Padawan in Episode 3. When the temple, yes, like one of the kids, when the temple gets attacked, Bail Organa goes to this landing strip to see what's going on, and this kid jumps out and tries to escape, takes out like 10 clone troopers by himself before he dies.
I don't remember that.
So like a barely trained Padawan is able to take out 10 clone troopers. So for us to compare,
who's stronger, rebels or stormtroopers, or do you think they're equivalent?
I'm thinking they're equivalent.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
What would you think?
I would assume the rebels are stronger because there's less of them and they're always they're always winning battles.
I don't know. If you read the books,
anyway, there's no metric to show how strong Luke is or to show how strong Vader is until either 1, the prequels, or 2, this movie. Because what other in episodes 4, 5, and 6, he fights Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan gives up, so you can't really measure there. That's not a full fight. Okay. In episode 6, maybe you can measure there with the Sith Lord and he does all this stuff. But really, the only measure is him fighting Luke Skywalker and force choking some people. But again, we can't measure how strong Luke is because he's never really been tested, except for Darth Vader, who again we also is an unknown strength. Except for in this movie when he's in a corridor and he's deflecting 8 shots a second and destroying people all at once. So that, if anything, that sets him up to show how strong he is later in the movies, in the later 3 movies.
We're talking about a movie universe, so you talk about wanting to make a metric to measure their strength. Like, I don't know what you're looking for with that, Han Solo shoots Darth Vader with a blaster and he blocks it with his hand. Like, how is that not powerful? Why? Like, I don't know why you're getting obsessed about this metric of how strong they are and why that really matters.
I'm just saying, we've already had a discussion about how Luke isn't that strong.
Well, and I disagree with you about
video,
it, but
I don't know why you would. There's a perfectly...
Because I have way more experience in Star Wars than you do.
Video on our YouTube channel
it's a beautiful video.
Strong or not strong Luke is.
I mean, yes, your opinion, he's not that strong.
But if anything, this one scene left me wanting more Darth Vader, and there's not really any great Darth Vader scenes. There's not... As we've talked about so many times before, we talked about this in our Doctor Strange topic, we talked about this, and probably other ones. Mm-hmm. I want to see the villain or the hero just go through humongous piles of people to show how strong they are compared to the average person.
Sure.
And that happens in this scene. Darth Vader destroys people.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't really happen in any of the movies.
True.
And that doesn't really happen with Luke in any of his movies. It's always these two
if not
titans.
The prequels. Because like Anakin takes out all of the Separatists and all the droids there by himself at Mustafar.
That's true. But in Episode 5, it's these two titans fighting against each other, and you can't really see how strong they are because you don't get to compare them to what they would do to someone more average. Like Luke, quote unquote, holds his own on Episode 5, except when he doesn't.
Except where he loses.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand where it's hard to measure like Luke's strength in that, but I still don't think you can say you can't measure Darth Vader's strength because, I mean,
it's funny. It's a trained martial artist fighting someone that's quote unquote trained. Depending on
who left his training early.
Okay. Right. Depending on how much faith you put in Yoda's training.
Okay. I mean, he trains like all the Jedi. He trained Obi-Wan, who defeated Darth Vader.
They're even. They're 1-1.
Are they?
Yeah. What do you mean? Yeah, are they?
I count 3 limbs.
If anything, they're 1. He's 0-1.
I don't know.
Because Darth Vader killed him.
No. He transformed into a ghost. He didn't get killed.
I don't think you know how scoreboards work.
No. I don't think you do. I think every limb counts as a point.
If it's a fight to the death.
And there were no limbs gone with Obi-Wan. There's nothing left. So how can we even know that he scored any points?
So then
and Obi-Wan, there are 3 limbs, and he gets caught on fire. So I think that's even a bonus point at the end of Episode 3.
All right, I'll give it to you.
So some bonus points there. So Obi-Wan handedly defeats Darth Vader. Arguably at his prime.
It is his prime.
So, I don't know. He got trained by Yoda. But, every Padawan was trained by Yoda before the fall of the Jedi.
Okay, but Luke still left his training early.
True.
Anyway.
I mean, we know that he's weaker than Darth Vader.
There was a really stupid scene. First of all, the whole love aspect of this movie, where Jyn Erso and Captain Irish are falling in love throughout the whole rest of the movie.
Like, that just randomly starts happening.
Doesn't need to happen. Like,
in the last 45 minutes, it's just like, oh.
They're, like, fighting the whole movie.
It's romantic tension.
And then he, like, almost kills her dad, and then she's like, well, you're kind of cute, so...
It was kind of unnecessary.
And then, not to mention...
But at the end, I'm glad they didn't kiss at the end.
Yeah, that was nice.
Like, them just holding hands and hugging, like, that's fine, because, like, I think anybody who's staring their death in the face would be willing to, like...
That's also what I thought.
To do that. So I thought it was a nice little touch there. But there was romantic tension randomly in there, and it was kind of unnecessary.
There was a couple scenes in the trailers that didn't make it to the movie. One was when she's on that plank and a TIE fighter rises up to see her.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. But also, when she's up there and she's fighting the general in the white, whatever his name was. Krennic. Captain Irish comes out of nowhere after being... you could assume dead.
Right, because he falls and you hear thunk, thunk, thunk as he falls down this giant pit.
And then he comes up and shoots him in the back. And you're like, oh my gosh. And I think the point of that scene is you're supposed to be happy to see him.
Right.
What I would have preferred would be, instead of him shooting him sneakily, if he just transmitted the plans behind his back.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's by the transmitter. Just hit that transmit button.
Right.
And then you could have General White turn around and then Jyn Erso conk him on the head. Or something. Right?
Sure.
But instead it seemed like she had to be the one that transmitted the plan. So he had to kill her, and then he stepped aside so she could transmit it. Even though at that point it was unnecessary.
I mean...
All for love.
Yeah, sure. I don't know. None of that really occurred to me. I don't know. I mean, if you climbed up a ladder and you had the immediate choice of saving your friend or go press that lever.
But what's their mission? The mission is to submit the plans.
Right.
Anyway, what happened?
I mean, does he know that the plans are like, I don't know. I mean, there's lots of things.
What happened in the middle of this movie? Do you remember?
Yeah, they go to... that's when, like, her father dies.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, the beginning of this movie is them finding Saw Gerrera, who's a character from the Clone Wars cartoons.
Oh, really?
That they made with Forrest Whitaker. Kind of a confusing character in this movie.
No joke.
And
what's going on with that?
Kind of just, like... Just really dragged. And I think it's cool that they wanted to add that character in, but I don't think they did it very well. But either way, yeah, that's the beginning of the movie. Second part of the movie is them going to the research station, where Captain Irish, as you like to say, has to go try and assassinate Jin's dad. That part was all right. I thought, it was better than the whole Jeddah thing.
There's another really cool scene that happened in there. When the Rogue One squadron were flying in, they had to fly low through all the mountains and peaks, and the android couldn't do it, and Captain Irish couldn't do it. They're like, this is so hard.
Yeah.
But then when the TIE fighters came in, they flew through all those in formation. So like that shows how much better pilots TIE fighters are, or not TIE fighters, X-wing pilots are.
Sure.
Than
those
whatever
guys.
they were.
Regular guys.
I don't know if that's intentional. But that's what I took from it, is to show.
Sure.
Look how cool these X-wing fighter pilots are. They can do this in formation, and then also attack the space.
Sure. Yeah,
so that's fun.
I thought that was a really cool touch to the whole movie, and the whole timing of it is kind of like a way for Captain Irish to complete his objective without actually doing it himself, which is kind of like I don't know what the right word is for it. It's very convenient that all happened that way.
Ex Machina?
Yeah. Is it Deus Ex Machina? That's a movie.
No, I think that's the phrase.
Ex Machina. Yeah. So I thought it was a little bit convenient. Kind of like gets him out of any trouble that.
Yeah.
I wish he would have had like maybe like at least a talking to from his general for like not doing it, like some sort of consequence.
A good Captain Phasma talking to.
Right. Yeah. You know. That didn't happen. So
also,
minor complaint.
Finn is no longer the only Imperial defector in the Star Wars cinematic universe.
Sure. Yeah. I'm glad you added cinematic in there because there's tons in the books.
I don't read Star Wars books.
I know you don't, but it's canon.
Don't.
I don't know.
Except for the legends, which are not.
If people are searching for this, maybe they are.
No, if people are searching for this, it says they have experience with the Underpaid Gamers and they love the arguments that we get into about how strong Luke Skywalker is.
Oh my gosh, let's not get into that again.
Oh, I'll do it all day.
I mean, you're wrong.
That's a good argument you got there.
I've already gone into it.
What else happens in this movie? So what are the characters on Rogue One? You have Android, Alan Tudyk. You have Big Gun Guy. You have Blind Martial Artist.
Mm-hmm.
You have Imperial Pilot. Defector.
Right. You have Captain
Irish.
And Jin.
So 6 people.
Sure.
They all die. Mm-hmm. Probably the saddest of them would probably be the android.
That just took me a little bit off guard, and because he's dying the whole time, but he keeps fighting and talking. Yeah. Like I was like, oh, that's so good. And then the only other time I got sad, when the blind guy died, I knew it was happening.
Yeah, that was so.
So I was like,
his character,
and I wanted to like his character, like before coming in here with the trailer. Like his character. But he was just kind of annoying, like I'm one with the Force. I'm one with the Force.
He said that literally all the time. And just cut that crap.
Like we get it. You're like religiously devoted to the Force, which is fine, especially because like they're ex-guardians of kyber crystals, which is what they were saying earlier. But it was almost unnatural. Like it was hard to like his character because he didn't seem like an actual person. Mm-hmm. Like Big Gun Guy was more of a regular person.
There was some development there.
Yeah, there's a little bit of development with him, but I don't know. I feel like just the characters in general, it was just really hard to get into them, and I feel like that can be said about almost all of them. Besides Jin and Captain Irish, there's like no development. The main bad guy, Director Krennic.
To be fair, not every character needs to develop. Some characters are fully developed when the story starts.
Sure.
Like Blind Martial Artist. I just didn't like his character. He was fully developed. I don't think he needed to go anywhere.
I didn't really have a reason to care about him.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. I guess is I didn't have there's no. I just didn't know anything. Didn't know anything about him. Didn't really care about him. There's no reason for me to want him to live except that he likes the Force, and that sounds good.
There is one scene, his first martial arts scene, where he fights like 8 stormtroopers.
Yeah.
Where he throws dust in a stormtrooper's face.
Yeah.
How's that work?
I don't know.
They have a mask on.
I don't feel like it would work.
Like who choreographed
Also,
this?
he uses a stormtrooper as a shield for like 6 bolts.
Yeah.
And the stormtrooper is like still standing. Like if he was dead, he would have limped over, and he would have had to hold him up, and he definitely didn't hold him up. I was like,
There was
that's kind of
a lot of
sketchy.
inconsistent blaster bolts in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times one shot would kill anybody, but
And
at
then occasionally-
at the very end it hit the guy like in the chest
right
before blind martial artist guy died, and
Yeah.
he was fine until he got shot again.
Right. You know, I saw that too.
Who's of the 6 people?
Mm-hmm.
Whose death was the most impactful? Let's rank most impactful to least impactful on your general psyche.
I think Jen and Captain are the top one because those are the characters that I liked in the whole show, and then followed closely by the android K. You just call him K a bunch, and then the rest of the characters didn't really care.
Really? See, I would do android first, and then I would do rebel pilot just because he got blown up by that grenade, and I thought it was a good saying.
Yeah.
And then I would probably do the Jin and the captain, and then the other 4 really don't matter.
I mean, yeah.
I didn't care for Jin.
Yeah, I mean,
I even disliked her since the first trailer.
Like, why did the Kyber Crystal Guardian dudes, both Chirrut and the big gun guy, why did they even go with her in the first place? And why did they stick with them through the whole rebellion? We don't have any, like what captured. Reason other than...
They got captured by Forrest Whitaker's army.
Sure.
But then, and then they had to leave.
Right.
Because the whole... Essentially, the whole planet was blown up.
Right, the continent was, like, gone. Right, and I understand that part, but then going into... I guess maybe they're motivated because their home just got blown up. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's their motivation. So that might be fair.
Also, in episode 4, everyone's like... The Death Star is like... People don't believe in it. But it blew up essentially 2 planets in this movie.
Right.
Scarif and then...
Yeah, it takes out like a continent. Like because Krennic complains earlier in the movie that he's like, why don't we use the full power? And he's like, we're trying to make a statement, not a manifesto.
Right. But still, that's enough to, you would think, get
to unite
information around. But also, a bigger complaint, maybe one of the biggest complaints I have in this movie, when they're leaving hyperspace, or when they're in hyperspace to go finish the mission, which is to kill Jin Erse's father, he gets a radio transmission.
Right.
Radio waves do not travel as fast as light speed. There's no way he could have gotten a radio transmission.
Yeah, that was kind of a weird thing. And
And I'm like, maybe it could have been a recording, but he responded to it. And he accepted his orders.
There was intercommunication going on.
Like, how dare they?
Multiple times. There was a second time that happened too, and I noticed it.
What is happening here?
I was like, that's kind of weird. I mean, maybe they do have a way to do like hyperspace transmissions, but not that I know of. I mean, there has to be like relay stations, is what I remember from all that stuff. Either way, I did. So there's another topic we haven't talked about. There are a lot of CGI'd people in this.
That's true.
And I've actually earlier today, before I saw the movie. There was a news article about how controversial it was to use a dead actor, his image, in this movie. And
who was that?
Grand Moff Tarkin.
Oh, he died?
Tarkin is. I mean, he was old when episode 4 came out, and he's passed away a long time ago. And he's CGI'd into the movie, and he's like
a lot.
He has more lines than I think Krennic does, which is weird.
Probably. You think they don't have a lookalike? You don't think anybody on the planet looks like him?
I'm sure somebody does, but they just CGI'd him. They CGI'd him. They gave us like a young Princess Leia.
Almost too young. We both agreed it's kind of in her cheeks. It's a little off in the cheek.
It was a little bit off. I think they did Tarkin the best, but also Red Leader. I didn't even like. There's like some of these side characters who are in episode 4 who go to the trench run. These pilots are pilots in this episode too, and I noticed that I freaked out.
Yeah, you did.
I was like, what? And there's like 4 of them, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's them. And I didn't even notice that it was CGI, but I think it's just because they flashed so quickly on the screen. I was like so impressed with that. I was like, what a nice touch to all this.
There was another time when you freaked out.
There were so many Easter eggs.
It's when there's a lot of Easter eggs, but there was one where you didn't respond to. It's when the robot said, "I have a bad feeling about this," but they cut him off, and I looked at you, and you're just like stone faced.
I know. Well, I was like,
"What's wrong with you?"
I don't know.
Are your ears broken?
No, I heard it.
Is your Star Wars knowledge broken?
No, I know.
It's an Easter egg that I got. Who
It's
was
just
the guy
one of
with
those
the guy with the ugly face?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to talk about next.
What's that about?
So as Jen and Captain and Kay are walking through Jedha's capital city, they bump into these two characters in the street, and he's like, "Do you even know who I am?" That's the guy. Both of those guys are the guys in the cantina who Obi-Wan cuts one of their arms off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, same guy with like the crazy nose and the guy who has like the
How'd they get
bulbous guys. I don't know. They're like criminals. I mean, that's all you know in there. In the stories, they're famous criminals.
I guess they just left.
Yeah, they were on their way out, I guess, and bumped into them.
But I think we need to talk about the Death Star.
Sure.
I think we need to talk about the weakness that is in the Death Star.
I mean, my prediction, if you listened to last week's podcast...
What's your prediction?
My prediction was that Galen Erso, Jen's father, purposely put a weakness in there, and I said it was the exhaust port, which leads down to the reactor, which is what he did. Like, he made it so that the reactor, if you take it out, it would take out the entire thing.
From what I understood, the weakness is there's a chain reaction to where even if you just throw like a small explosion into the reactor itself, it will chain react and implode and destroy everything.
Right.
That's what I think his weakness was planned. I think it was more of a very similar to how nuclear reactors work.
Like
they implode intentionally. Yeah, one failure and it implodes intentionally.
Yeah.
I think that's essentially what he did with the Death Star.
Yeah.
I don't think he was the engineer behind the exhaust port.
Okay.
I
mean, that's complete speculation. Either way, he made it so that there was like a weakness that could be exploited in the Death Star. So, I mean, that's moot. I don't know.
What, you don't want to talk about the exhaust port?
I mean, where's your evidence that wasn't him?
He just doesn't seem like a man or an architect.
He's a scientist.
He's
a designer.
Electrical chemical engineer.
No, he's not. He's a kyber crystal specialist. He makes new...
I feel like that's an engineer.
Sure, he's an engineer. That's fine.
But the weakness, he stated clearly, was the chain reaction.
Right.
I don't think he also put in the weakness to get... for the photon cannon torpedoes to get in there. I don't think he also made that, because it could have been anything. Could have been... Anybody just walked down to the core and threw a grenade in would have blew it up.
So instead of picking the person who purposefully is trying to sabotage the Death Star, who it would make the most logical sense would be he did it too because he's the one trying to sabotage the Death Star. You're gonna go ahead and find some random person who's not named in anything, who did not purposely try and sabotage it, who just made a slight little mistake. And go with that.
Yeah, I think you're forgetting...
That's less logical.
I think you're forgetting that the Death Star itself is a government building, and that things like that happen literally all the time.
I don't know. I still feel like it's more logical that it was Galen or so. Which I was surprised at how much he wasn't in the movie. Also, Krennic, too. I'm just really surprised because the book...
and there was a scene in the trailer where Krennic's walking on the water with his white coat behind him, looking like he's going to do something.
Right.
Nothing.
Not in there. And he's like... He when he's talking to Darth Vader in the trailer, he says, "The power is immeasurable." Like he has like an actual conversation with Darth Vader. That didn't happen. At least that line didn't happen.
I don't know.
There were a lot of things in the trailers that weren't, and that happened in Episode 7 with the lighting of Kylo Ren's lightsaber. The it did like the 2 lighting, like and that was like the first reveal that his lightsaber is different.
Yeah.
And then in the movie, that doesn't happen.
Really?
Yeah, it doesn't happen. Not even once.
So is that kind of going down the DC treatment, DCU?
Maybe.
Comics?
Oh.
Where, there's going to be an extended cut, and you're going to see all these extra scenes.
I don't know.
See, maybe. I feel like this movie was coherent. I feel like those extra scenes aren't needed. Sure. Also, the TIE Fighter meeting Jen on the top wouldn't make any sense at this point.
Right.
And whatever conversation, I don't know. White Coat General, what's his name? Krennic?
Orson Krennic, yeah.
He didn't do anything.
I know, and...
He just whined and complained the whole time.
His backstory is really cool. Him and Galen are like...
Buds.
I mean, they like went to...
They went to prom together. Not together, but...
Right.
I mean...
At the same time.
They had a double date.
Right.
They went to TGI Fridays first.
Sure.
Then they went to prom.
Exactly.
You know.
So they like studied together, and there's like a ton of interaction between the two. So they have like a little bit of a complicated relationship, and there's like nothing even hinting at that in the movie. And all like...
Yeah, you're right.
Like, I think Tarkin has more lines than both of them put together, maybe. It might be close. Because Galen has the whole like message in the hologram, but other than that, like he barely says anything. Same thing with Orson Krennic. He's just there and he's like a little baby because everything's going Tarkin's way instead of his way.
Yeah, I think the main weakness of this film is the fact that they tried to put focus on every person in Rogue One. Too many characters,
I agree with that. Too many characters to follow.
Too many main characters that you could cut like time in half and add some things. There are some really cool like visual effects in this.
Yeah, for sure. Holy cow.
Just it was so cool when the Death Star blacked out the sun before they destroyed.
Yeah, I mean there was like a big old shadow on the planet is what the first thing we noticed, and then it blots out the sun. I was like, what? That is so sick.
Also, when the Star Destroyer comes out from behind the shadow of the dish on the Death Star, when they're installing that, super sick. When it just lights it up an inch at a time. Ugh, it's so awesome. Yeah,
there were a lot of... The CGI was amazing with people and with just... I love space combat. Holy cow, in Star Wars, I love space scenes. Like, beginning of Episode 3 has an awesome space scene in it.
Yeah, it does.
And, I mean, the reason that movie is the best of the prequels, in my opinion, is because the ending, choreography, and the beginning, space battle is awesome. That's tangent. This movie does a really good job with space battle.
Right, no tangents allowed.
You're right. This is a podcast. We gotta be serious. Yeah, and like all the emphasis on the different the squadrons, you like followed like the different squadrons doing their different tasks, and I thought that was really cool.
In what?
In like the space battle. So like he sends like Blue Squadron down to the planet, and then those two guys get caught on the shield, and that was super cool. And then like they disable the.
You want to talk about the Hammerhead Corvette?
Yeah, and then he has this Hammerhead Corvette thing.
Why do you think they never use that in any of the other Star Wars movies?
I don't know.
Because it's useless, except for this one very specific instance.
You know, in the expanded universe, like from the video games, that's like a really, really old ship. Like the really old Republic cruisers look like that.
The Hammerhead Corvette is essentially a tugboat.
No, that's what it looks like. Essentially, I don't know if
it's just a little boat that moves a really big boat.
Yeah, and they just like gun. So they disable the ship with some light wings.
They took out the shields, and then the ship's just like, well, I can't do anything anymore.
Well, it's an ion cannon. It's like the big old orb thing on Hoth. It disables the entire ship.
So it's like an EMP blast?
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what it is. It doesn't really do a lot of damage, but it just fries all the electrical systems. So they disable the ship, and then he rams it into another one, and it acts like a giant knife and just cuts the next Star Destroyer in half. Mm-hmm. And it was so cool. And then it like falls on the shield and takes down the shield. I'm like, oh my god, that's so cool. I love that. That was so much fun.
You think there would have been like another shield generator on the other side of the planet?
Yeah, perhaps.
But
it was. I loved all the space. All the space. Give me a whole movie of space battle, and I'll go see it. Oh my gosh, space battle.
I'm saying our episode 8 movie. The idea that we came up with episode 8.
Yeah.
I think would be the best Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
There's behind the scenes Black Ops stuff going on, but there's also a giant war going on the whole time. Mm-hmm. I think that's what we need.
Yeah.
But and even when we discussed that, we talked about how the war would be led by like Poe and Chewie, 2 people.
Yeah.
And the Black Ops would be Finn and Poe would be the war.
Yeah.
And Chewie and Rey would be the Black Ops. That's only 4 characters, and they're both doing the same thing.
Right.
So you can see them.
You got 2 stories.
Yeah, so you have 2 stories, whereas this one
with chemistry between the characters.
Yeah, and this one is like so much going on.
Mm-hmm. There's so much going on.
Is this maybe plagued by the prequel curse? Where everything that's came before episode 4 is worse?
You know, I think this movie is better than episodes 1 and 2. I think this movie...
He didn't say 3! He didn't say 3!
I think episode 3 feels more epic.
More of a conclusion.
But I think the acting and the writing, like the dialogue at least...
In 3?
In Rogue One is better than the dialogue...
Oh. I thought you were going to say episode 3 is putrid dialogue, and I'd agree.
Yeah, it's terrible dialogue. And so I think this was better in those aspects.
The droid was very funny.
Yeah, he was super literal and sarcastic.
And you know I have an issue with things being too funny in movies that aren't supposed to be comedies.
Yeah.
I have that issue with Marvel movies when they try to do something serious, specifically anything Iron Man says, for the most part.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the comedy in this movie took a little bit back from this, again, what could have been a serious war film in the Star Wars universe but instead they tried to line it up
No,
as
they definitely
Disney is
did.
apt to do.
They did. I think the type of humor was probably the best kind of humor they could have added because it was like sarcastic humor as opposed to just like kiddie humor. Like
Opie fell down. Like Jar Jar Binks.
He's the Jar Jar Binks. Like, no, please no. That didn't happen, so that was good. So the sarcasm was fine. But I actually did expect this movie to be a little bit more gritty than it was. Which, I say that, and all the main characters died. So that's like not Star Wars.
That's good news.
But I
like that.
I like that they did that. I wish it would have been like... I kind of expected this entire movie to feel like they're just being chased and dogged down by the Empire, and I wanted to really see the oppression of the Empire, and we really didn't get to see that. I mean, the very beginning, she's captured in like a work camp thing, like sure, but I just wanted to like feel the oppression of what the world, like, what the galaxy palpable. Looks like. Yeah, like I wanted to see like some Wookiees at a slave camp get like gunned down in front of Jin. Like I wanted to see
there was some
terrible things
in Forrest Whitaker's planet.
Yeah.
There was some things where they were raiding some houses and they were walking down the streets with a tank, and I'm like, this reminds me of Nazi oppression.
Right.
Like I see the Nazism in this.
I wanted more of that.
I want to see more of that.
Right. I wanted the oppression to feel palpable so that we could have a better reason to love the rebellion in 4, 5, and 6. And like root for them more. Oh, yeah. Because all we know is lip service to oppression. Because we never see that in 4, 5, and 6. We see the story of the rebels directly what they're doing. Not we're not seeing the galaxy they're trying to save. It would have been cool if we could have seen
Alderaan blowing up.
Other than Alderaan, that is the.
But you want to see it on a personal level.
Yeah, I mean,
like what is a planet blowing up?
Like we really don't see we don't see the effects of that. It's like the same. It's like same thing like when your aunt dies, you get really sad. But when Aleppo blows up and hundreds of thousands of people are displaced and killed, like you don't care.
Yeah, but I see it on my newsfeed, so I do care, Justin.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
What's Aleppo?
What is Aleppo? Okay, Gary Johnson. All right. I just kicked it. Dang it.
You kicked it.
I kicked it. Sorry if there's a buzz. Yeah, so overall, this movie...
music. We talked about music.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so the music was not
John Williams.
It was not...
Michael Giacchino.
Yes.
Who does a lot of... He's really good.
He is good.
I like him a lot.
There's just one song that really bugged me.
Yeah, which one was that?
It was when they were climbing the tower with the data cores.
The HDD?
Yeah.
The hard disk drive.
It looked literally like a hard drive disk.
That thing was flopping around like that thing's wiped by now.
Like, there's no way. That thing's broken. But either way, when they're climbing it just makes this melody sound like over and over and over and over and over and over again. It did like 5 or 6 times. And it was like really annoying notes.
I didn't pay attention. I honestly wasn't paying attention.
Well, I wasn't paying attention to it until it started happening. And I was like, it like distracted me from the movie. Everything else was fine. The ending scene when Jen and Captain Irish know that they're going to die, like that music was beautiful. Like it was very powerful. I
didn't notice it there.
The whole ending, like the music just like really complemented everything that was going on.
Well, did we really see them die? They could be alive.
They're super dead.
The screen went white, dude.
Yeah, with the fiery death of the Death Star.
I'm just saying, I would love to see so much more Darth Vader.
That I expected to see more Darth Vader.
Yeah, I was
going into the movie. What they did very well, but it would have been nice if we had more.
I was getting more and more mad as we drew closer to the end of the movie because like as soon as the battle started within the last 45 minutes, they'd say, "Call Darth Vader. He's gonna come take care of this." And I expected him to come down there and again get on the beach and just destroy everybody. Yeah. Right? Didn't happen. Yeah, sure. Instead, they just show him in the corridor, which was, again, as we talked about, a great scene.
You're right.
I just...
More would have been
wanted it. Like, I don't think they wasted him because I think that scene was good, but they didn't use him. I feel like
the first scene with him was let down. Like when Krennic goes and complains to him.
Yeah, what do you...
And they go to his, like, Sith castle where he's, like, in a back-to-tank.
Also, yeah, that's true, but also... He's surrounded by lava, and lava's the reason why he needs to be in that. You think he would go somewhere like to Hoth, where he's like, I don't want to be around lava anymore.
I'm like good. Lava. I'm fine.
Like no sand, no lava.
Well, it looked like Mustafar, which is where he got. And I was like, why would he pick that? Maybe because of the pain thing. Like, Sith are obsessed with like pain and like
maybe that
feeling the anger is where their strength comes from. So maybe that's why. But either way, that whole scene was a little bit disappointing. because James Earl Jones comes back, does Darth Vader's voice, which sounds great, but there wasn't like, he wasn't angry, and I just really want to see angry Darth Vader, which we don't always see very often. We get it like very briefly in episode 4 at the very beginning.
Yep.
He's like, find those droids, I want them alive.
He does the finger point, and I did it at you when he did it.
Yeah. That was fun. But like the whole conversation with Krennic, now it was nice to. I was like, there's no way Krennic's getting out of this without any sort of force choking, because Darth Vader has to force choke
right
every time.
Calling
which was kind of like, to me, also why I didn't like laugh at the. I got a bad feeling about this, is because every single movie has it in it, and I think at this point, like,
it's just like a check mark on your thing.
There's a check mark on the list, and it's like it would have been nice if they only did it in the episodes, and in these side stories, this could be like a separate, like...
Technically, they did cut him off before he could finish it.
That's true. They did.
So, when Darth Vader first chokes General Whitecoat...
Yep.
He does it with his hand. He has to hold his hand a certain way.
Yeah.
But in Episode 7, when Kylo Ren stops the blaster bolt...
He doesn't even have to...
He doesn't have to do anything.
Right.
So, it leads me to believe that Kylo Ren at least has a stronger force power, which... It's probably contention, because I know Darth Vader is born of the Force and blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, Darth Vader has to put a lot of effort into just moving. And Kylo Ren's just kind of like, well, I got 2 working legs and 2 working arms. Like, what do you want from me?
It'd be nice if they fought each other, but that's never going to happen. Because they're dead. Unless Ghost Darth Vader comes in.
I think time travel's going to happen and
whoops his butt.
In the Star Wars?
No.
9?
Never. I hope that time travel is never introduced into Star Wars.
Technically it already is with lightspeed travel. With hyperspace.
True, but I mean like going back in time.
Yeah. No Millennium Falcon that I saw. No Millennium Falcon Easter egg.
Which is fine.
We talked about we might see it.
What other predictions do we have?
No opening crawl?
My prediction was that, another one was that the end of this movie would be Princess Leia like flying off.
Mm-hmm.
And then being chased, and that's exactly what it was, which I loved. I loved the last 5 minutes of the movie. It was good. That was pinnacle.
That's where it peaked, and I guess it's good that it peaked at the end there, but I think
I wish we had more.
It should have peaked within the last half hour, and then there should have been a conclusion after that.
Right, then there really wasn't.
That's a standard story arc that you learn in third grade. There's build up, and it goes up to the top, and then
action,
there's climax and conclusion.
Then there's
And this one is climax credits.
Yep. Which I don't know what else they would need to do with that. Like,
I don't know
how else they would.
I just wanted more Darth Vader,
but that would have been.
People are talking about Darth Vader so much before this movie came out.
Yeah.
A lot of people are saying that this is like now their second favorite Star Wars movie.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I've heard that too.
Did you watch the first half of this movie? Like,
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I can't get over the first half of the movie because it just like it didn't feel like Star Wars very well to me, and partly maybe because the music was totally different. It wasn't totally different. It felt different.
There were some melodies that came over and did the same, but at the same time, there wasn't.
And the characters, it was different. Like, I don't know. I kind of wanted this to be a little bit more gritty. I think that upon our analysis, it could have used less characters to focus on. Just because, like, I just don't know why I should like some of the characters, and I don't, like, they don't give you a good reason to like them. Like, Han Solo, you can like, because he's like...
Okay, you like Han Solo because it's Harrison Ford. Like, that's literally the only reason you need. Because Harrison Ford is awesome.
True. You like Chewie because he's fun.
Awesome.
Because he, like, hugs... Like, he's like a little big teddy bear, but at the same time, he's like, he'll rip your arms off.
Oh, yeah. The martial arts guy also had, like, a bowcaster type thing.
That he could fire without looking.
And then he shot down the TIE fighter?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on with this guy?
That's a pretty powerful hand weapon. Like...
Yeah. Like, this guy seemed inconsistent. Like, he didn't seem to have any weaknesses, and then the thing blew up, and it's like... You couldn't see that coming, but you can predict the movements of a TIE fighter.
Right.
Like, your Hawkeye, all of a sudden.
Yeah, I don't know how he fits into the whole, like, Force user thing. Because I feel like to get to the lever that he had to pull, the main switch, he had to have used the Force to be able to, like, not get shot. But... He can't use the
because he's going against the elite stormtroopers.
Right, like he was going against the Death Troopers, right?
I guess.
That's the nickname for them, the Death Troopers.
Because they always die? Because
they're supposed to be like really good.
Because you're sentenced to death as soon as you put on the black suit?
I mean, if you think about it, they like wipe out the entire squad except for 4 guys.
They do. And then they trade.
And they trade with the big gun guy.
Big gun guy. again, because he needed something to do. But
Right.
instead of fighting smart like he has the whole movie, he just walks out and is like, well, I guess I'm gonna die now.
Right.
And his gun was inconsistent the whole time too.
Yeah, because he had to like cock it.
He had to cock it after like every 2 shots, but sometimes it's fully automatic, and sometimes it's like a light machine gun.
Right.
Sometimes it's an in-place turret. Like
it was a little bit.
And he had that big old pack on his back.
Mm-hmm.
Literally thought it was gonna end the movie with a flamethrower. I'm like, that would have been sick.
Well, I thought he might die by it getting shot, and then him like the classic flamethrower like shoots out energy, but this would be energy, not fire, and then he'd blow up or something.
I don't know.
Whatever. I mean, it was. I still like this movie.
Oh,
overall.
who taught Jen how to fight? Because she had the pistol,
Saw Gerrera,
and then she had the melee pistol,
right?
Like the thing, like
the baton.
Yeah,
like it turns into a baton.
Like, what's happening here?
Saw Gerrera did.
I guess
That rebel guy.
And he lost both of his feet.
He did. He's like an extremist. He's a little bit too crazy.
The extremist virus.
He's the extreme rebellion.
Yeah, he was like the rebellion didn't want to be with him.
They thought he was too dirty.
Like you're a little
too extreme. So yeah, he taught her, which makes sense too in the Clone Wars. His character
there was a lot of
too extreme.
There's a lot of focus on her necklace that had nothing to do with the movie.
Right. They don't. I mean,
how many scenes went back to her necklace?
Like 4, and it's a crystal that I'm guessing her dad made that her mother gave her.
Yeah, that's literally it.
And she never references her mother again, except for she names her like code name was like her mom's name. Lyra is her mom's name.
Her code name?
Her alias name when she first talks to Mon Mothma and the rebellion people. They're like, your name is blah blah blah.
I know that.
We know who you really are. I mean, it's a small little detail. Other than that, no mention of her mother. No.
Her necklace meant nothing. Like I assumed it would be like a key to something.
Right.
Didn't happen. I mean, it would be. If it was a key to something, I would be even more depressed.
Right, like that's too.
Because how could he have made anything that could be a key to?
Right, like how would he know that he was going to build a Death Star? He didn't know he was building a Death Star when he got abducted at that point.
Yeah.
He knew he was working on projects for the Empire, which he didn't want to do. So it like that is just too extreme of a solution for the whole thing.
It was just there for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been different if she would have like had a time of reflection and she like sat there and like looked at it and like maybe cried a little bit or something, or like kind of just, or like held it when she had her flashback, she'd like look down at it or something.
Yeah,
I don't know. We didn't really get a whole lot of it. It's kind of weird.
She had one flashback.
Thought she had 2.
She had the very beginning started with in the past, and then there's another flashback where she was young on the Imperial, and she was in the Imperial base.
Yeah.
And her dad's like, I'm going to always protect you.
Oh, it was Coruscant. Oh, yeah, that's the apartment in Coruscant that they have. Because Orson's there drinking with them.
Uh-huh.
And that's in the books, actually.
Oh, there's a reference to the blue milk? There is actually blue milk?
There was blue milk, and I pointed it out. I was like, blue milk? I'm trying to think of other Easter eggs. I mean, all the Red Squadron was there from the movie.
Yeah.
Which was so cool to me. I'm trying to think. What else? Oh, in the Rebel base, there's a bunch of characters that are in the old ones too. Akbar wasn't in there, but General Dodonna was, who's in episode 4, which you don't know who he is, probably.
The old guy?
He's the old guy, old general.
I remember that because you kind of flipped out when you saw him too.
Yeah, I was like, it's Dodonna too. Well, it's because I didn't see him in the trailers, and I saw Mon Mothma in the trailers. I would have flipped out when Mon Mothma went out there if I had known.
Who's that?
If I didn't know. The lady in the white dress was kind of like leading everybody.
The ancient one?
Not the ancient one.
I mean, she looks like the ancient one.
Sort of. Like the Star Wars version of the ancient one.
That's right.
Yeah, there's that. And then Bail Organa was in this, which was kind of cool. He's like the only connection to the prequels in this movie, other than R2-D2.
Leia's father?
Yeah, and C-3PO. Yeah.
C-3PO and R2 were there.
Very briefly.
Again,
and then
some of that stuff was just fan service, and I'm like,
I know. And that's kind of what's annoying about it. I think they should play with the stories more.
Unfortunately, R2-D2 was not in the bridge when Leia got the message. He wasn't there. I think that would have been the perfect place to have R2, because she needs to give the message to R2.
Right.
And he wasn't there. The only time we saw him was on Yavin 4.
Yeah.
That's when you should have had him, was right there. And C-3PO.
I would have at the end. C-3PO could have been on the bridge with her.
Yeah, just
and R2 could have been anywhere because she uploads the the plans later, because that disc thing that the rebel soldiers were passing off, that thing is what she uses at the beginning of 4. She slips it into R2-D2 and she uploads the...
You know what the rebels could really benefit from? The cloud.
Yeah,
everyone could have had the plans.
Back it up to the cloud, man. Just
Put it on
back it up to the cloud. Yeah.
Google Docs.
Yeah, Google Docs.
Just Google Docs that.
And then everybody would have had it. I mean, and they even say we broadcast the plans to the galaxy. They said, they literally say that.
When? In this movie?
Yeah, they said it in the movie. They said that line. We're going to broadcast it to the galaxy or something like that. So...
She never said, my least favorite line, I rebel.
She did not. You're right.
They must have heard my complaint.
They probably did. They probably listened to our podcast and decided. Duh.
Obviously.
That's the only answer.
What if they made a director's cut and they just took out the first half and they're like, thanks, Underpaid Gamers. We weren't sure about this.
Yeah, and they give us or they just make the Underpaid Gamer version of it. And it's just the Darth Vader scene on repeat for 30 minutes and then it's the last half hour.
No, if they were going to make the Underpaid Gamers version of it would be the Darth Vader scene is at the very beginning, and then they cut to the YouTube video I made of how strong Luke Skywalker is, and then they go back to the fight, the final fight, just like this podcast.
Yep. I'm trying to think what else.
And then throw in some Marvel references.
I don't know. Can you give me a summary score for this? Underpaid Gamer review. Is this worth a movie ticket? Is this worth movie ticket and popcorn? Is this worth red boxing, buying, renting? What are you thinking?
I'm getting more and more tired of going to theaters to see things. I'm always getting distracted by things. Mm-hmm. When I watch things at home, I'm also getting distracted, but it's not by other people. Mm-hmm. I don't think this is a movie. Again, like I started when we first started this. I don't think this is a movie you need to see.
Yeah.
I definitely don't think it's a movie you need to see in theaters. To contrast with our most recently watched film, Doctor Strange, I think that's a movie you need to see in theaters. Probably IMAX 3D. Which we did not see. Right. I think that would enhance this.
To enhance it.
I don't think this one you can watch this at home on a Blu-ray disc. Because I noticed this in the theater. They're still using projectors, so the bottom and the sides are still kind of fuzzy. You get a Blu-ray disc, you get a 50-inch TV. That's gonna be crisp, 100% of the way around.
True. So what are you saying? What are you saying here? Can you quantify it?
If you have a good, trusted theater to go to, give this a good middle-of-the-day matinee.
Okay.
If I would have stayed up and saw this at midnight, I would have been so disappointed.
Yeah. That's kind of how I felt when I stayed up for Green Lantern when it came out a long time ago. With Ryan Reynolds. I went to the midnight release of that.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That was a mistake.
Oh, man.
I walked out of there and I was like, gosh darn it.
I feel so bad.
My rating for this is...
Yeah, give it to me.
I'll give...
Give me a setting.
It's twofold, okay?
Oh.
So, number one,
double duty.
If you are a Star Wars fan, you need to see this movie.
Okay.
If you are not a Star Wars fan, maybe you've seen them before and you think they're fun, but you're not all about it. You haven't been looking forward to this movie for 6 months. You just know that it just came out and oh yeah, I like Star Wars. Yeah, let's go see it. This I would say is a matinee. I don't want to say that people shouldn't go see this movie because I do think it was I think it was worth my money.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I gotta pay you.
What money was that, Justin?
Shush. Yeah, so I think it's worth going to the movies to see if you are a fan of Star Wars, if you like Star Wars. However, if you have not seen Star Wars, do not see this movie. Do not let this be your first experience.
That's exactly what I want to talk about. This is an awful first step into Star Wars.
It is. This is fan service. This is expanding on the
literally would be so confusing.
It would be the most confusing.
Again, because the Darth Vader scene doesn't happen until the very end, but they talk about him halfway through the movie to the very end about how strong he is and how fearful, and they set him up as this big, imposing, menacing character. Mm-hmm. You don't see that at all.
What if, this would be fun, what if instead of just all of Rogue One, they just chopped off the last 5 minutes with Darth Vader chasing the plans and put that on the front of Episode 4, and that was the beginning of Episode 4. Would that make Episode 4 better? Because I think it might. Mm-hmm. Because that makes Darth Vader way scarier.
Start it with a villain? Starting
it with Darth Vader slicing through those dudes. Or maybe start on the bridge and who have the Death Star plans? And they print it off and then...
I like where you're going, but...
I'm just thinking because there's
such a change of momentum from the scene in Rogue One, because that's so fast paced, to the beginning scene of A New Hope, which is slow.
Which is just the difference in film in the 70s.
It's just difference of how we can do things now. But it would have been so fast.
And then
if you put that in the 70s version, it would have been so fast. And then this happened, and essentially the beginning of A New Hope, Darth Vader's standing around.
Yeah.
Right? They blast open, and then people go to him for direction.
Yeah.
This one,
he yells at them a couple times.
This one, and he wags his finger.
He does.
This one, he does it himself.
Did you know the James Earl Jones voice thing was like a last minute thought? The actor inside the suit was originally going to have the voice.
Oh yeah, David Powers.
Yeah. Then they overdid it. They overrode it.
Yeah, he did all the lines, and they didn't tell him that. They got James Earl Jones to do it, so when he came out, he was super mad.
Right. That was fun.
Anyway,
all right,
is that our review?
That's our official review. If you'd like to comment on our thoughts, if you think we're completely wrong or you 100% agree, let us know. Give us a little bit of tweet at UP Gamers Podcast. Check us out on YouTube. Leave some comments down there, or on SoundCloud. Leave comments on this time period right now.
Right now. On SoundCloud, iTunes, on Google Play.
Check out our website.
We're on YouTube. As we mentioned before, there is a Luke Skywalker video.
There is.
It's great.
And we also have other Star Wars episodes if you're interested with either prediction. If haven't listened to predictions, we made some predictions before. If you want to double check to make sure we're telling the truth, we are. Also, we talked about some fan theories for episode 8.
Dude, we made a whole movie in our heads of episode 8
of what we want to see.
So it's gonna be awesome.
So go check those out if you're into Star Wars and you're listening to this one. We've got more.
Email us at underpaidgamerspodcast@gmail.com.
And thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. Yeah. We'll see you next time with the infamous Underpaid Gamers Awards 2016!
The second annual UPG Awards.
That's what's up.
I'm excited.
Peace out.
See you guys.